in that gymnasium here very soon, air that's working out there so people don't pass out in basketball games and volleyball games and those kinds of things. But lots of great things happening. I'm very thankful for Brother Stephen and the job he's done. And then so many men. Bill Hardecker's been there every single day, helping us with the electric. Bob and Jerry have been there. Brother Dwayne did the most tedious job in this whole entire thing, pulling every nail out of the studs that we pulled all the plaster off of. And so just so many people. Derek and DJ's been there every day, cleaning for us and stuff. I mean, just so many people. I could just go on. Wendy made blueberry pie today. My day was complete. I went to sleep after lunch, Miss Wendy, because life was complete. So we had a great, I'm going to stop talking. Let's go ahead and sing. Here we go. Oh, how he loves you and me. Oh, how he loves you and me. Oh, how he loves you and me. He gave his life. What more could he give? Oh, how he loves you. Oh, how he loves me. Oh, how he loves you and me. Jesus to Calvary did go. His love for sinners to show. What he did there brought hope from despair. Oh, how he loves you. Oh, how he loves me. Oh, how he loves you and me. Heavenly Father, Lord, I just ask you now, as we go into the service this evening, Lord, I just ask that you will help us to clear our minds. Lord, there's so much going on, so many things that we could be thinking about. I'm sure folks have work schedules that are very demanding on them right now. Lord, this heat, working out in this heat for different jobs and different things that are happening. Lord, it's taxing also. And Lord, I thank you for our church. I thank you for our church family. Lord, I think of Mrs. Bollinger, Lord, just sitting with her in the hospital. Lord, and just seeing her getting weaker and a little more frail. And I just pray for Mrs. Bollinger, Lord, the 91 years of faithfulness. Lord, just so many years of faithfulness even to this church. And Lord, may we continue to lift this family up in prayer in these tough days that they're going through with Mrs. Bollinger's health. Lord, I think of those who have had surgeries or are having surgery. I think of Miss Elsie, Lord. I think of Brother Raven, who has had so many tests, and even folks in this room that have asked us to pray about unspoken requests. Lord, I just ask you to take all these things that we sometimes worry and get anxious about, and Lord, may we cast those cares upon you tonight. Lord, not to pick them back up and worry about them tomorrow, but just lay them at your feet, Lord, to obtain the mercy that you have available for us and to find grace to help in time of need. Lord, we need you in this service. We sometimes, Lord, get so busy. Sometimes we get so clogged by the world and distracted by the world and the things of the world. Lord, the attitude of the world. Lord, so many people are angry and just lonely and mean and just bitterness growing. Lord, just fighting and all of these things, division. Lord, I'm glad it does not exist in this church, but Lord, I pray that we'd get more people in the church and influence more people for you, to bring more people to your kingdom. Lord, I just pray that every moment of this service tonight would be pleasing and honoring to you, and that when we leave here tonight, the message will have affected not only our minds and get us thinking about things, but it will have affected our heart, our soul, our decision maker, our mind, our will, our emotions. Lord, that we might please you with our decision making, please you with our daily lives. Lord, this is our prayer tonight. And Lord, I just pray for your presence. I pray for every second of this service is focused to be on your Son, Jesus Christ. Lord, may we just keep him high and lifted up. May we just exalt him and draw all of us closer to you tonight. And Lord, in your precious Son's name, Jesus Christ, we pray these things. And amen. You can be seated there. I forgot my trivia cards on my desk. Miss Rachel, can you Miss Rachel, could you grab the trivia cards off of my desk real quick? Michael, could you grab those for my wife and run those up here for me? Thank you, sir. It's a little box like look like playing cards. I thought I left them up here, but I guess I didn't. Oh, I got them. I knew they were up here. You cleaning people, they put them in the drawer. Sorry, Steven. I just wanted to see you go over there. All right, let's do this. I need a child from the Thunderbirds. Who's on the Thunderbirds? Aiden, are you Thunderbird? Boom, right here. I need a child from the Blue Angels. Who's a Blue Angel child? Who's on the Blue Angels? Oh, there he is, Ryder. Come on up. All right, guys, here we go. You guys can look at me here. Let me find one I can give you guys. Oh, this is a good one. Who in the Old Testament, you ready? Who in the Old Testament was called the dreamer? I'm not going to tell you. Nope. It's not Dan, it's not Judas, it's not Simeon, it's not Levi, it's not Ephraim, it's not Manasseh, it's not Benjamin. Benjamin's older brother was? When I put my hand like this, that's when you answer. Good job, guys. It was Joseph. All right, I'll give you one more. Oh, this is a good one. You guys should know this one. All right. Who in the Old Testament said, "Pick me up and throw me into the sea"? Jonah, there it is. Very good. You see it? You got 1-0 Blue Angels right now. Thunderbirds, right? All right, I need a Thunderbird teen. Nope, teens aren't here. Let's do Chase. Are you a Thunderbird or Blue Angel? Come on up. Who's another Blue Angel? Come on, Abby. All right. Chase right here, Abby right here, looking at me. You guys know your Bible pretty good, don't you? All right, let me find a good one here. Man, some of these are tough, man. Oh, here's a good one. You guys know this. What book in the Bible has the most chapters? Psalms. You don't. Okay, I'll do another one. You don't have to raise your hand. Just shout out the answer, all right? Let's see here. You guys probably know this one. What was Matthew, one of Christ's disciples, what was Matthew doing when Jesus called him to be a disciple? What was he doing when he was called to be a disciple? Peter, James, and them, they were fishing. Matthew was he was not a fisherman. He was a tax collector. We'll do another one. Here we go. Good gracious, man. You're going to be a Bible scholar to get some of these. You guys probably know this one. Do you guys know about the armor, for the Christian armor? Do you guys know anything about the Christian armor? The breastplate of righteousness, feet shot. Oh, never mind. Okay, you're looking at me. I thought it might spur something. There's going, nope. All right. All right, so who in the Old Testament was the man who had sores from head to toe? Boils from head to toe. You got it. Who is the man who had boils from head to toe? Had 3 friends come and visit him. His wife said, "Curse God and die." Wonderful wife, by the way. Anybody? Anything? All right, let me get 2 more people up here. All right. Thank you guys for participating. Thank you very much. Let's give them a hand. All right, let me get some adults. Mrs. Hoffer, thank you. Are you a Blue Angel or Thunderbird, Miss Hoffer? How old are you, Mrs. Hoffer? 58, you're even, so that is a Blue Angel. Come on up, Blue Angel. I need an adult Thunderbird. Let's go Melody Freeman. That's a good idea. Thank you for volunteering, Mel. Appreciate that. All right, this one's easy, all right? I'm not supposed to ask your age. You don't have to tell me. You could have said, or I should have just said, is the last part of your age even or odd? I should have done that. My bad. I'll try that next time so people don't know your age. Who tried to kill David 7 times? There you go, Melody, and you're a Thunderbird. Did the Thunderbirds get the first one? All right, we got to do one. We got to do 2 more. Ty, come on up, and Brother Dwayne. All right, wait, are you a Thunderbird? Blue Angel? You're Blue Angel? Who's a Thunderbird over here? Kyle, are you a Thunderbird? You're evens? Sam, are you odd? Come on. Come on, Sam. Are you a Thunderbird, Sam? 35. Yes, you are odd. All right, here you go. Thunderbirds and Blue Angels. This is worth 3 points. So if you get this, you're a Thunderbird, right? Then you guys win 3-0. If you get this, you win 3-2. This is worth 3 points. All right, here we go. Yeah, really. Where the points don't matter, and who said, "Am I my brother's keeper"? Cain, there it is. The Thunderbirds have swept trivia time tonight. My goodness. Blue Angels, you got to go back and regroup. You guys got to regroup. All right. We are now going to hear the story. Miss Rachel has put that together for us about a wing and a prayer.
Nathan received a fast reply from Christian Airmen's Missionary Fellowship. Betty Green wrote about their plans to begin work in South America. Camp's first goal was to help Wycliffe Bible translators set up some jungle stations in southern Mexico and then do the same in Peru. Betty Green suggested that when the war was over, Nathan join her in Peru and become the ministry's mechanic. Nathan thought and prayed long and hard about her offer. Meanwhile, Army life continued as usual. There were new challenges and new locations. For a while, Nathan briefed crews going into combat overseas. He loved the job. It gave him regular hours and an office of his own. Best of all, though, he got Sundays off, and every Sunday Nathan would be in church, usually with a few fellow soldiers he'd brought along with him. Nathan continued to think and pray about the offer from Betty Green. In the end, though, he felt he should go to Bible college first and get some theological training. Reluctantly, he wrote to Betty Green and turned her offer down. For now. About this time, Nathan was also thinking about Marjorie Ferris, a friend of a friend. Marge, as she liked to be called, was training to be a nurse in Los Angeles. She was about 5'2" with short, wavy brown hair and sparkling blue eyes. Nathan had only met her a few times, but there was something about her faith and the way she cared for those around her that attracted him. Marge lived in a fury of activity, always visiting friends, volunteering her spare time to sit with ill patients, and leading Sunday school at a local church. Despite all her activity, there was a peace about Marge. She was never in a hurry and somehow always had enough time to make everyone she met feel special. Nathan would like to spend more time with her, but it was 300 miles from Los Angeles, and he expected to be sent home soon to Huntington, Pennsylvania for good. Finally, in February 1946, Nathan was formally discharged from the Army. It was time for him to head home to Huntington. He boarded a long train carrying discharged soldiers back east. At the same time as Nathan was winding his way across the country by train, Betty Green was flying Camp's first plane to Mexico. It was a 4-seater, 220 horsepower enclosed cabin Waco biplane. Once back in Huntington, Nathan had time on his hands again. He wasn't due to start at Wheaton College until the fall. To fill the time, he bought himself a second-hand airplane and began using it to build up his flying hours. Before long, he had qualified for his commercial pilot's and instructor's rating. 3 months after Nathan got back home to Huntington, an air crash occurred that would change his life. Not because he was in it, but because he would have to repair the damaged plane. Betty Green was about to finish her time in Mexico and head for Peru, and George Wiggins, an ex-Navy pilot, had come to replace her. They had taken a flight together to familiarize Wiggins with the area and were attempting to land on a tiny airstrip at El Real, about a mile from the Wycliffe Bible Translators jungle camp in southern Mexico, when their landing went wrong. Fortunately, both pilots had climbed out of the cockpit unhurt, which was more than can be said for the plane, which lay on its side, its 2 left wings torn off, its propeller bent out of shape, and its landing gear broken. Betty Green was aware the accident could have shut down the organization altogether. Many people were watching them to see whether it really was worthwhile and safe to run an airline just for missionaries. As she looked at the wreckage of the Waco biplane, she knew something had to be done fast. She and George Wiggins were both pilots, but neither of them had any idea on how to fix a badly damaged airplane in the middle of a tropical jungle. But Betty Green knew someone who did. By the time the request for help reached Nathan via Jim Truxton, the details were a little vague. Somewhere in Mexico was a plane that needed a bit of help. After praying about it, Nathan decided to put off going to college and give his time to where it was needed most. He called Jim Truxton and told him that if he was needed, he could be ready to go in as little as 2 weeks. 2 days later, a letter arrived containing a rail ticket to the Mexican border. The ticket was dated for 3 days away. Nathan raced into action. There was so much to do: photographs to be taken for a passport, visas to be obtained, certified duplicates of his aviation certificates and ratings to be made, his plane to be sold, and a million other little things had to be taken care of before he left. Amazingly, on the 3rd day, he was sitting on a train headed south with 40 pounds of tools neatly arranged in a toolbox inside his duffel bag. He never let the bag out of his sight. Without his tools, nothing would be getting repaired in Mexico. The train had crossed the Missouri River into Kansas before it began to dawn on Nathan that he'd been too busy getting ready to actually think much about where he was going. He was on a train headed for Laredo on the Texas-Mexico border, but he had not had enough time to study where he should go once he crossed the border. He pulled out the letter Jim Truxton had sent him and read it carefully. The letter contained an apartment address: Apartado 8673, Tuxtla, GTZ, Mexico. He had no clue where that was, only that somewhere in Mexico, in an apartment in a place called GTZ, someone was waiting for him. Then, of course, there was the language barrier. Nathan knew that Spanish was spoken in Mexico, but he didn't speak Spanish. As the golden wheat fields of Kansas flashed past his window, marking his journey south, he began to wonder what he'd actually let himself in for. Perhaps once he found the plane, things would be easier. After all, it couldn't be too badly damaged because they'd asked for only one mechanic to come fix it. Perhaps he could have it flying again and be back home in time for the fall semester of college after all. The train continued south, and Nathan was glad when, on the last day of his trip to the border, 4 young Mexican men climbed into his carriage. He listened to their Spanish and wondered if he could ever learn to speak the language like they did. In the end, he thought it would take him quite a while to learn to speak it that well, so he had the 4 young men teach him one phrase in Spanish. "Is there someone here who speaks English?" It seemed the only sensible thing to learn to say. Nathan shared with the men the apartment address he was headed for. They looked at it and burst out laughing. It was a long time before they finally settled down enough to tell him that Apartado was not an apartment, but a post office box. Great, thought Nathan. Now I'm meeting someone in a post office box in Mexico. Together they tackled the job of finding Tuxtla GTZ on the map Nate had tucked away in his duffel bag. Nathan assured the men it must be somewhere between the Texas border and Mexico City because that was where the map seemed to indicate most people in Mexico lived. But they could find no GTZ between Texas and Mexico City. Slowly, they scanned farther and farther down the map until they were at the bottom of Mexico, where it borders Guatemala, where they found the province of Chiapas. And in the middle of that, they found the town of Tuxtla Gutierrez. On many maps, it turned out that they abbreviated that to GTZ. Nathan peered at the map, somehow hoping to get a clue as to what Tuxtla Gutierrez would be like. And all he could see was a sea of unpronounceable names. In Laredo, Nathan was going to collect a new propeller for the plane, but he hadn't thought much about carrying it across the border to Mexico. The propeller was 7 feet long, hard to disguise, and not the kind of thing someone entering Mexico on a tourist visa normally carries. The Mexican border guards thought an airplane propeller was a strange tourist item too, and they would not let him into Mexico with it. Nathan found a phone and called the camp headquarters office in Los Angeles to see what he should do about the problem. He was told to ship the propeller to Mexico City, and since time had been lost, catch a plane there himself. Nate was quite glad to be zipping through the air to Mexico City rather than rumbling along over by train and bus. In Mexico City, Nathan was met by Betty Green, who had flown up from Peru. She told him about the damage to the plane. Nathan was stunned as he listened. What did she mean when she said you would find the 2 wings and the struts in baskets in the hangar at the Tuxtla airport? Surely they didn't make baskets big enough for airplane wings to fit in. As Nathan was to find out soon enough when he peered into the hangar there, it all depends on how small the pieces of the wings are. Propped up behind the baskets of the wing pieces was what it looked like a pile of junk. As he looked more closely, though, Nathan discovered that pile of junk was actually the wing struts and pieces of the landing gear that had been removed from the plane and brought 80 miles out of the jungle to Tuxtla. Standing in the hangar, surveying the pieces, Nathan knew he was going to be there for a very long time. Nathan walked around and tried to imagine how he would tackle the job. He thought about the model planes he'd made as a boy. Perhaps he could approach the job the same way as building a model. In fact, the Waco biplane wasn't a lot different from the models he had made. It was constructed mostly of wood and fabric. It was just a lot bigger than his model planes and had a real engine. He plotted out a plan to rebuild the plane. First, he would make new wing parts from wood. Then he would concentrate on the struts and the wing root to help the wings to hold the wings to the fuselage of the airplane. Finally, he would fix the landing gear. By then, the propeller should have arrived, and he would take it all to the other parts to El Real in the jungle and assemble the wings there. The wings would be much too big to carry in one piece if he assembled them at Tuxtla. The problem was, Nathan was a mechanic, not a woodworker. To get the job done, he would need to find a cabinet maker who would also build airplane wing parts. But how could he find such a person when he couldn't even speak the language? He had been working hard on learning Spanish and could count to 13 with confidence, but he was a long way from being able to tell someone what he wanted them to do. While his Spanish had a way to go, he would draw simple pictures, which he figured anyone could understand. So with a notebook in hand, he drew pictures of a man who worked with chisels and saws and went off to find such a man who wanted a job making parts for an airplane. It was an overwhelming task, but amazingly, Nate came back to his one-room house with Santiago, who had immediately understood what Nate wanted done. Santiago was also a good cabinet maker who learned well from pictures, and he didn't mind giving up building cabinets for a while to repair airplane wings. The slow process of rebuilding the wings began. Nate and Santiago began working in the hangar, but the owner wouldn't let them use their tools inside the hangar. It was too hot and rainy to do the work outside, so there was only one thing to do. The two men moved their wing building operation to Nathan's one-room house. There wasn't much space to spare once 2 men and 2 wings were inside. The house itself was made of adobe brick with a tile roof. It had a front and a back door, but no windows. The doors themselves were constructed in 2 halves, much like barn doors. It didn't take Nathan long to figure out why they were like that. Without the doors open, the room had no sunlight. When the doors were wide open, there was plenty of sunlight, but pigs, chickens, and burros would wander through the house to see what the 2 men were up to. An answer to that problem was soon discovered, with the top half of the door open and the bottom half closed. There was still plenty of sunlight to work by, but the visiting animal problem was solved. There were other animal problems, though. Bats, rats, scorpions, and cockroaches all vied for living space of the rafters of the house. They were impossible to get rid of. At first, Nathan hunted them down, but as quickly as he did, more came flooding in to fill up the empty accommodation space in the rafters. He learned to be very, very thankful for his mosquito net, which he tucked tightly around his bed each night. The net formed kind of a boundary between his world and the world of the rodents, bats, and bugs that took over the little house each night after dark. Not only were the insects and animals a trial, but Nate also found the local food to be very strange. He thought of many other uses there must be for tortillas, which tasted to him like cardboard. And when he ate frioles and hot sauce, it seemed to smother everything. His stomach revolted. In the end, his stomach would allow him to eat only tomatoes, boiled eggs, and bananas. Despite the food and the creatures in the rafters, Nathan kept on working. Each day, Nathan took out the blueprints and worked on the wings using the wood parts Santiago had crafted. He often worked late into the night. Finally, though, the heat, poor food, lack of sleep, and stress of the whole project combined to keep him in bed. He was very sick, but he didn't know what he was sick with, and there were no doctors around to tell him. His only information came from a basic medical handbook that Betty Green had given him. Nathan lay on his stomach and propped the book on his pillow. Somehow, he had to figure out what was wrong with him. He started at A and read all the symptoms for every illness until he got to J, where he found the word jaundice and a list of symptoms. Weakness? Yes. He could hardly drag himself out of bed to the cactus bush outside that he used as a bathroom. Yellow discoloration of the eyeballs. He reached for the mirror he kept on the shelf above his bed and pulled down his lower left eyelid. There was a definite yellow tinge to his eyes. As he read through the list, he discovered just how sick he was. He needed help, and he needed it fast. He pushed the medical handbook from his pillow, rolled on his back, and began to pray.
Thank you, Miss Rachel, for putting those things together each week for us. Is that Anna? And getting exciting. And finding the story of Nathan, and on a wing and a prayer. I love the story so far. I'm going to take up this evening's offering. Do I have any young people who would like to take up the offering? Let's go with Bruce. Are you a Blue Angel or a Thunderbird? A Thunderbird? What are you, Simon? Who's a Blue Angel who would like to take up the offering tonight? Any Blue Angels? Come on up, Matthew. Matthew Palmer and Bruce Freeman. If you'd like to give into the offering this evening, you can give into the Thunderbirds or the Blue Angels to help your team out. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for the story tonight. Lord, just thinking about folks who have given their life to help others share the gospel. What an exciting story to see. This man helping other people, Lord, share the gospel by working on planes. What an amazing story. Lord, I just pray as we give the offering tonight, may every dollar that is given further this church this summer. Lord, thank you for those who have faithfully given, that we might be able to have a good time in the summer and be able to give out some prizes and pay for the VBS. And Lord, thank you for everybody just contributing to that. And now may you bless this offering and bless all those that give. In your name I pray. Amen. much for giving to that every week. Man, you can take that back to Mr. Trout there. Go ahead and take that back to him. Thank you so much for helping us with that offering. You did a great job. At this time, we're going to sing a song. Brother Richie, if you'll come and lead us in What a Day That Will Be. Let's stand together as we sing a great hymn together. What a Day That Will Be.
All right, sing it out this evening. There's coming a day. There is coming a day when no heartache shall come, no more clouds in the sky, no more tears to dim the eye. All is peace forevermore on that happy golden shore. What a day, glorious day that will be. What a day that will be when my Jesus I shall see. When I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace. And he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be. There'll be no sorrow there, no more burdens to bear, no more sickness, no pain, no more parting over there, and forever I will be with the one who died for me. What a day, glorious day that will be. What a day that will be when my Jesus I shall see. When I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace. When he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be.
Great singing. Can be seated there. All right, this time, Brother Derek and Miss Joy are going to take the children. I don't know if they're going outside, if they're going downstairs. So all the children, you can head out there with Mr. Derek and Miss Joy. They're going to have some games for you and some different things to do out there. Anyway. We would really like anybody under 18 needs to go out. So parents, if you need to be with them or whatever that is, just by the subject matter tonight, we just want to make sure that you're getting the information and then you can relay it the way you need to your young people. So if you can help us with that, I really do appreciate that. All right, Brother Trout has the final numbers. How many, who's won the offering so far? It's been 3 weeks. Blue Angels twice. The third one is Blue Angels $74, Thunderbird $63. Blue Angels win the offering again. I guess if you have an odd number birthday, you're richer. I don't know. I don't even know how that works. Yes. I don't have a clue. I keep getting them mixed up. Blue Angels is even. Oh, Angels are even. No, I don't even know how to remember it. I keep messing it up, but all right. Blue Angels have won 3 weeks in a row. That's all we know. At the end of the night, Mrs. Hoffer, if you'll help me with this, if you and Brother Rick can help me with this, at the end of the service, we have enough ice cream sandwiches for everybody tonight. So they're going to be out in the freezer out there. If you can just make sure those are out in the foyer, and everybody will get an ice cream sandwich as you leave. Get a treat and some ice cream. So that'll be nice. And we'll do that after Pastor Lear preaches. The subject matter I asked Pastor Lear to actually bring this message specifically. I don't usually tell preachers, hey, if you're going to preach, I want you to preach on this. I don't usually do that. But as I saw this coming up, and our teenagers were going to be away at camp, and some of the things we've been dealing with teenagers, and everybody's dealing with this social media stuff and things. I've met with grown adults that are having trouble with things. I've met with young people who are having things, people as young as 8 and 9 having trouble on the internet. So I've asked Pastor Lear to just bring a message to give us some information, some inspiration about this, some things to be watching out for. Sometimes we just don't know. And to go searching for it sometimes it's even worse than trying to guard against some of this stuff. So Pastor Lear is versed in these things. He runs the network here. He has all the guards on there that we need. And so I've asked him to bring this message for us specifically. And then as we're raising these young people and these teenagers, we really do need to be on the front lines of guarding our hearts and guarding their hearts. The Bible says we should be wise concerning evil. Wise concerning good, simple concerning evil. We should be people who aren't all in the evil that is out there. We should be wise concerning good. And so I hope that you'll listen this evening, and we'll be blessed, I'm sure, by what Pastor Lear brings to us.
I've been multitasking this evening. Can you hear me okay? I can't hear myself back there, so sound good? I'm going to be in Ephesians chapter 6 in case you didn't figure it out. Of course, Pastor asked me to preach on a delicate subject, and so I'm rather nervous about it. I'm going to try and be cautious. We are still live streaming because I do believe that a lot of parents that aren't here can use this information. But I would ask, if you're watching via live stream, I am going to use some words and some language that I want to be the one introducing to my children. And that's what Pastor and I had talked about with sending the kids downstairs. So if you want to be the one introducing those things to your children, I would ask you to ask your kids to leave the room or watch this at a different time. I'm going to read the verses in just a few minutes out of Ephesians chapter 6 that I'm going to be in. I guess start at the end, because I will forget at the very end. I need to give a shout out to a few of the sources that I used, and believe me, this doesn't even scratch the surface of the sources, but because I use very specific online sources, I want to make sure that I do give credit where credit is due. So the following is not exhaustive, but a list of some of the sources that I use: Consumers Advocate, Smart Social, Harris Interactive, the Polycloss Foundation, Barna and Gallup Polls, SafeWise, Very Well Family, PC Magazine, Clark, FOSS and one of my favorite websites, commonsensemedia.org. Those are all websites that I relied on for some of the information that came for this message. The Wright brothers took off on the first plane in 1903. It wasn't very long after that, as a matter of fact, it was about a decade after that the world found itself engulfed, entrenched in what was termed the war to end all wars, World War I. Just 10 years after the first plane took flight, they decided that it would be a good idea to use planes for warfare. Planes similar to this is a Handley Page aircraft from Great Britain. One of the famous ones, Snoopy's Red Baron, was the German Falkner, very similar airplanes. Airplanes like this were used just 10 years after they were created. They put this into a war. Pilots got in and began flying, and actually very untrained pilots got in and began flying these things in the war. They used them for things like reconnaissance missions, rescue operations, and of course, bombings. The interior, the inside of these planes looked a little something like this. There is virtually nothing inside that bad boy. Brother Sam, not like what you're used to looking at inside a plane, is it? As a matter of fact, I did some research. This is I believe this is actually the inside of one of the German Falkners. I think it's an actual picture. I was doing some research and I found a picture of a brand new Gulfstream G700, brand new, 2022, and this is what the interior looks like in that thing. Just a slight difference in technology over the years. But when you look at this Falkner or Handley Page, very little help is there. There's virtually no communication abilities, no instrumentation. The pilot was almost on their own. And as a matter of fact, during World War I, they would run into conditions where it was cloudy or foggy or rainy, and they had very low visibility. And what would happen is they would have to start kind of guessing how to fly, where they were supposed to go, and the direction they needed to be going. Hence, we got the term flying blind. The term flying blind, although originating with World War I, has come to mean to do something based on guesswork, intuition, or without any help or instructions. If I went to the airport and I was getting ready to board my plane, and I seen this guy come in as my pilot, I would have some issue. I would have a lot of issues. But when it comes to our children, and I'm going to use terms, children, teens, kids, adolescents, tweens, whatever you want to call them, I'm going to interchange them all. Almost all of my statistics, I will specify some age range, but almost all the statistics that I'm about to use range in from as young as 5 and 6 years old up to 18 years old. So actually one of the statistics I think is actually from 3 years old up to 18 years old. But children, teenagers, they're all lumped together. So if I say children, please understand I'm probably talking about your kid too, no matter how old they are. When it comes to our children, we seem to be content to fly blind. We would rather turn our heads and ignore the issues, specifically regarding the internet, rather than deal with the problems that we are facing. Society has shifted over the past 10 years like never before. And we're trying to navigate it by guesswork, without the help of instruction, and without being able to see clearly what we're doing. We are flying blind when it comes to our own kids. It is our goal to help them reach adulthood and to reach it safely. We can't fly blind when it comes to that. We can't turn a blind eye to the internet. Ephesians 6 is a very popular passage when talking about your family. But believe it or not, I am not going to read out of the first part of the chapter. I'm going to take later in the chapter a very familiar passage, but I want to apply a principle to your Christian life when it comes to your children and the internet out of actually verses 10 through 13. Verses 10 through 13. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Make no mistake, when it comes to our children on the internet, we are in a spiritual battle. And while I could easily preach a message just talking about the armor of God later on in this chapter, the principle that I want to draw out is the fact that God, in his infinite wisdom, gives us all the tools that we need to survive spiritual warfare. He doesn't expect us to fly blind. He expects us to use the tools, the equipment, and the protection that he allows us to have access to in order to safeguard ourselves and our children. There are some religions out there that won't let their kids go to the doctor, won't let their children take medicine because they don't believe in it. And we look at religions like that and we mock them and we make fun of them because it's so dumb not to get your children medicine if they need medicine. They're flying blind, just like we are when it comes to the internet. If you refuse to help your child get the protection that they need, are you really any better than them? This message might be geared towards protecting the teens and the kids, but it would be beneficial if we use many of these same precautions for ourselves as well. I'm about to read a bunch of stats here. Understand these stats come from both secular and Christian origins, sites, polls. They come from participants who were saved and unsaved. These are children who are churched and unchurched, which means it could just as easily be your child that was one of the ones in these polls. So here we go. You can't read that probably whatsoever. That first big long bar, 99%. 99% of children and teenagers have access to the internet. That is crazy. The next stat there, 30%. 30% talk to a stranger about meeting in person. And think of that. If you've got 4 kids, like I do, that stat says chances are one of them has talked to somebody about meeting in person, a stranger. 27% talk to a stranger online about sex. 27%. 20%, 1 out of every 5, 10 to 17-year-olds, as young as 10, received a sexual solicitation in the last year. 1 year. 1 out of every 5 of 10 to 17-year-olds. 70% encounter pornography on a website accidentally. Did you catch that number? 70%. 42% say their parents don't review their online activity. I tend to think that probably is a little low, to be honest with you. 32% admit to clearing their history so their parents don't know what they were on the internet doing. Another 32%, new slide with statistics you can't read anyway, 32% say they have a private email or social media account that their parents don't know about. That's 1 out of every 3, give or take, have an account that you have no idea they have. 63% say they know how to hide their online activities from their parents. 65% admit to having unsafe, inappropriate, or illegal activities online. 65% admit to it in the polls. 22%, and I'm glad this is the lowest statistic, but it's still a very sad statistic. 22% of teenage girls say that they have sent nude or semi-nude photos to somebody else online. 22%. That other big one there, 90%. 90% of 8 to 16-year-olds, 8 to 16-year-olds have been exposed to some sort of online pornography. 8 to 16, 90% of them. The last one, 69%, regularly receive online communication from a stranger and don't tell an adult. You think you know what's going on, but if you go by the statistics, I would say we're flying blind. We're trying to make it up as we go along. We're trying to figure it out. And to be quite honest with you, parents, it's not working. We're losing a generation because we are not providing the full armor that our kids need to succeed and become honest, reasonable adults. I broke it down into 3 basic areas that I believe we're flying blind in. And these are very practical, but I can promise you it's going to be, I'm going to talk about screen time, pornography, and different apps. 3 specific areas. I promise you, every single one of you, I promise you, I don't care how smart you think you are, your child will outsmart you when it comes to technology. You have got to be on the front lines of this thing. You can't react. You have to be proactive in this area. We need armor to protect us and our kids. At first, on their screen time, in 2019, this is a 2-year-old statistic, the average entertainment screen time for a 13 to 18-year-old was 7 hours and 22 minutes a day. The average teenager sleeps 9 to 10 hours a day, which means they are on their screens for half of their waking hours on average. And that's a stat from 2 years ago. I guarantee that stat hasn't gone down in the past 2 years. So we need some safeguards, some armor for our screen time for our kids. I'm going to tell you what I know. I'm going to give you information that I know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about Android and Microsoft phones. I tried doing Android and Microsoft for several years, and I got tired of the battle, I got tired of the fight. I switched to Apple, and it just works. That truly should be their slogan. It just works. Everything that they have on their phone is so much more parent-oriented than an Android. Androids are meant and made to be broken. They're made to be jailbroken so that a child can do whatever they want on them. Apples are very strong in their encryption and their protection. They are tough. I would highly recommend, if you're a parent, you're considering a phone for your child. My oldest has a phone. She is 17 and has a phone. My 14-year-old has a phone that has no cellular access whatsoever. It's an iPod is basically what it is. If you are considering getting your children phones, tablets, things like that, my personal opinion, this is not facts or anything like that, my personal opinion is go with Apple. You can set up your family sharing. You set them each up on their own account, and I'll show you here. You set them each up on their own account, and you have full control. It really is very nice. So understanding that I'm sticking with what I know, I'm going to give you the information that I know. I'm going to show you how I set up Apple. I know there's stuff out there for Android, and I know you can do it with Android, but I didn't spend the time researching it. I can give you some websites that will help you if you need to research it. Your child already has one, whatever, tablets, things like that. I can give you a bunch of websites, but I'm going to show you what I do for my family so you can see it. On my iPhone, I go into my settings, and this is my phone. This is a picture of my phone, my settings. I can go down and I can click on screen time. When I click on screen time, it brings me up into this nice page, which shows me my screen time. It shows me parental controls that I can set up for my phone, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. You should have parental controls on your phone, your own personal phone, and you shouldn't have your own password. But that's I'll talk about that again later. I can control all my stuff there, but I can also control my child's. Every one of my kids are listed on that screen right there. So Aiden, he's got his own iCloud. Oh, your son has his own email address. Absolutely, because I have all the passwords, I have all the controls, and I have his phone under total lockdown if I want it under total lockdown. Remotely from my phone, I can shut his phone down, or his tablet, he's got an iPad. I can shut it down instantly. I click on his, and it brings me to this page. This page shows me exactly how much screen time he is spending on his phone every single day. Now, I'm going to talk, when I get into pornography, we're going to talk about parental controls and things like that. I can also set his parental controls from this page. He can't download any apps without asking me. It has to ask me. He can only run apps that I allow him to run. As a matter of fact, if I want to, I can shut it down so he can only use text and nothing else. Text and phone, nothing else. You have full control over your child's phone with the iPhone parental controls. And I'm not an iPhone salesman, but I'm telling you, if you want to protect your child, this is the way to do it. And again, there's probably something Android related. I don't know. I can't remember, but it's there. I give them a little bit more time in the summer, but if you look in that little box there, which you probably can't even see, I don't know, I can hardly see that one back there. Of course, you're closer to these than I am to that one. There's filters, there's blocks, there's all kinds of stuff that I can get into there. Specifically setting screen time app limits. You can set app limits for individual apps, you can set app limits for types of apps, things like social media, you can set app limits for. I have app limits for across the board for him. Anything I allow him on his iPad, it doesn't matter what he's on, he gets an hour and a half in the summer. That's what he gets, nothing else. At an hour and a half, his iPad shuts down and says, if you want to keep playing this game, you have to request more screen time from dad or mom. She has that control. She's an adult in our family sharing plan, so she has that control as well. It is total lockdown for your kids, teenagers. Again, I wish I knew more about the Android, but I don't. The more time we spend on the screen, the less time we value ourselves and our relationships. Screen time, statistically speaking, is directly correlated with feelings of anxiety, loneliness, and depression. there is a story of a lady named Sharon, and I forgot her daughter's name, but there's a story of a lady named Sharon. Her daughter, she was out of town. She was texting her daughter throughout the day, and her daughter was, how are you doing? And the daughter was like, oh, I'm great, smiley face emoji, things are awesome, doing great, having a great day. What you doing? Oh, I'm chatting with my friends online, we're sending some messages, I'm texting some people. That night, that same night, she attempted suicide because she felt lonely. All day on the screen, but she felt lonely. I wish I could tell you that that story was an anomaly. But quite honestly, in today's day and age, that story is our reality. We have to control screen time. Experts say that turning off all screens a half an hour before you go to bed will help you get a better night's sleep. I strongly suggest that. My kids have no screens in their rooms whatsoever. They don't have a television. They don't take their iPads, phones to their rooms. They have no screens in their rooms. A half hour before bedtime, screens off, you get the best night's sleep. I would suggest having them fill that time with things like reading, meditating, or prayer, for instance. Do something that's not in front of a screen for a half an hour solid before bed. It'll be amazing what it does for your sleep cycle. Screen time is tough. Screen time is killing our kids. We got to put some armor on to protect them. God gives us that armor. Hi, there's the red box for that's how much screen time I give them. Flying blind, screen time. The second thing, flying blind, pornography. Parental control apps. Listen, none of them are going to be perfect. Every parental control app is going to have some sort of flaws. And to be honest, if your child wants to work around a parental control app bad enough, they will probably outsmart you and outsmart it and find a way to get around it. It is important that you sit down with them and explain to them why you put the safeguards in place. To show them that it's to protect them and to protect you. And to be honest, you should probably show them the importance of that by setting the example yourself. Some things to keep in mind. Things you want a parental control app to do. That is just so small. I apologize. I believe if you want a copy of these slides, I think starting here, I have a lot of these printed that I can give you as a handout at the end. None of them are perfect. Things you want to see, content filtering. You want it to filter content so that they're only seeing the things you want them to be exposed to. Safe browsing when they're online. Limiting their screen time. Again, Apple does a great job of that by itself, but a lot of these apps that I'm about to talk about will do it in the app. You want them to have safe texting and instant messaging and monitoring their social media and management. So you want an app that does all of that, and then in return, what that app does for you, it'll show you online activity reports, what they're doing. It'll show you their search histories. It'll show you when they request access to apps or things that they didn't have access to before. It'll show you if they request more access time. Anytime there's bad language, you want a monitor to show you if there's bad language coming across to text or social media. And then, of course, updates on the content filtering, making sure that the app is keeping up with the technology and the times. So you want to find all that in an app. Holy cow, that's a lot. So I have 10 different apps here. 5 of them I have a lot of detail on, then I'm just going to brush over 5 of them. The reason being is how much exposure I've had to these apps. I can give you a little bit more information on some of them. And at the end, I'll tell you what I would do if I was in your shoes. The first one is RPACT. RPACT, parents can use RPACT to create device usage schedules to be able to block apps, to limit screen time, to block devices at any time. Even when they're in use, it can shut them down. It can be used to locate family, block inappropriate content. It can be difficult to get set up. iOS is really a beast to try and get it to work on. And it does work better on Android than iOS. Price is about $6.99 a month for premium. By the way, spend the money. Get the free trial, that's fine, that's awesome. But spend the money and pay for the upgrade, whatever it is, when it comes to parental control apps. I think your child's going to be worth I think the most expensive one's probably $15 a month. I would say that your child's probably worth that. Their future is probably worth that. This one is a little bit more difficult to set up, but it's a decent overall type package. The next one is called MM Guardian. This provides parents with a lot of features like setting screen time limits, web filtering, location services, text and photo monitoring, which is good. Parents can establish keywords that will trigger an alert. If a text comes over with a certain keyword that you put in there, it would trigger you that text came through. Some parents have reported that user interface can be difficult to learn, and it is. I'm a computer guy, and it was a difficult user interface. It works on iPad, iPhones, Android tablets. Their monthly plans start at like $1.99 a month. It's not that bad. But again, I struggled with setting this up. It was a lot more difficult for me than some of these other ones. Kids Locks, I have not had experience with this one, but I had a lot of great reviews from it from a Christian internet website. Parents can easily set screen time limits for the day, for the week. No limit on how many children or mobile devices you can monitor with the app. A lot of these have limits. You can only monitor up to 15 devices, and then you have to set up a second parent account to monitor the rest. This, however, does only work on mobile devices, so you don't have the broad spectrum of what it can work on. But it does work. It is compatible with both iPhone and Android. Pricing ranges anywhere from $4 to $20 a month. Again, great reviews. I haven't tried this one personally. Bark. This is probably one of the most popular ones out right now. It steamrolled about a year and a half or 2 years ago, getting its name into the parental control market, and it has really taken off. And they are consistently trying to do updates to it. This, for Bark, almost every social media app is able to be monitored. You can receive alerts for when new apps are downloaded. It lets you manage the screen time, filter websites, request location check-ins. This was kind of cool. It's not just, which with Apple, you can just pull it up and see where your kid is at any point in time on the phone. For Android, they don't have that ability. With Bark, you can send a text, it'll send an alert to your kid's phone or tablet, and it'll shut the tablet down until they click on that, which gives you their location. So it's kind of cool. It makes it interactive for them, knowing that you're checking up to see where they're at. By the way, you don't have to hide it from your kids. I know these parents that are trying to like hide that they're loading this stuff. I told my kids, listen, I'm putting screen time conditions on there. I'm going to check your internet. We're going to watch what you're doing. Like, it's good for them to know because this is a training process. It's a teaching process for them. This isn't just you shoving it on them, which I'll talk more about in a minute. The downsides to Bark is it can interfere with other parental control softwares. The issue I had with it was it didn't play well with a lot of Apple's parental controls. But it is nice because you can put it on PC, Mac, phones, Androids, Amazon devices, Kindles, things like that. So it is really an all-platform thing. Honestly, out of all of these, this is probably in the top 2 of the ones that I've tried. If I were to recommend an intro-level one, it would probably be that one. It was fairly easy to set up, didn't have a whole lot of problems. Apple, I was going to throw a picture in of the content restrictions that I have for Aiden, but I didn't do that for any of the other ones, so I kind of felt bad for the other apps. But you can restrict, with the Apple parental controls, you can restrict the music they listen to exclude explicit lyrics. You can control the books that they read to exclude explicit books. You can control the apps that they download to 4+, 7+, 17+. You can control it by age. The television and movies all can be controlled. Like my kids can't watch anything that's not G-rated unless I allow them. So there's a lot of control with the Apple controls. I really sound like I'm an Apple salesman, don't I? I apologize. It comes free with the Mac, so you don't pay anything for it. It's just part of the phone. Yes, iPhones are expensive. They are ridiculously expensive. but you can get a slightly older iPhone or a used iPhone for about the same price as a new Android and get all that with it free. It's all included. Some other parental control apps that we have. There's one called Q Studio. This one offers parents a very comprehensive monitoring ability, a lot of online and social activities. It does cross-platform to Nook and Kindle devices as well as Apple and Android, so it does fit a lot of different devices. But you are limited on the account up to 10 children across 10 devices. So if your child has a phone and a tablet and a Kindle and you add it up quick, and you're going to have like 3 or 4 parent accounts in order to pay for that. I forgot to get the price on that. I think it's like $54 a year, something along those lines. The next one is called Soaring Safe. This is another one I've had no experience with, but it came highly rated for a browser, something for safe browsing. It seemed to work really well on cellular accounts and Wi-Fi devices, but I don't have any experience with it. It just said it was good. FamiSafe is another one. This lets parents control screen time, track real-time location, and detect inappropriate content in kids' devices. It is robust. It's got great content tracking, but the downside of this one is it doesn't do anything with messaging apps. So any of their messaging apps is not checked with FamiSafe, which steered me away from it immediately for what I would want to use it for. The last two are Canopy, and then the industry standard years ago was Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes is one of the oldest. I'll just give you my flat out honest opinion. I can't stand Covenant Eyes personally. It's I had a phrase in my head and I can't remember what it was. The Bible says, I will set no wicked thing before my eyes. Covenant Eyes will let you set nothing before your eyes. It overblocks. It's crazy what it does. So I steered away from it. I tried it for a while. I couldn't take it. I couldn't do it. The other one there is called Canopy. This is new. This is a very new one that has just come out recently, but I have never seen a parental control app come out swinging as hard as this one did, with as many Christian groups getting behind it as what I've seen. If you do some research on it, it seems to be extremely robust. It covers everything that we've talked about, and it was reasonably priced. I didn't write the price down on it either, but it was reasonably priced. Again, there was a limit to the number of devices. I think this one was a 15-device limit for your family, so you'd have to set up multiple accounts if you have more devices than that. But it sounds very good. If you're going to ask me my personal opinion, which I've kind of given to you along the way, I have used and messed around with a lot of these. I actually downloaded Canopy this afternoon because I wanted to try it and just didn't get a chance with everything going on to try it out. Out of all the ones I've tried, honestly, I would recommend Bark as the entry level, unless you're using an iPhone, in which case your entry level would be the built-in screen time and content restrictions. Every family is different. You're all going to have different needs. I'm an Apple guy when it comes to mobile devices, so it fits my family's needs. I did have Bark for a long time on the kids' iPads, and when the iPad gets outdated, the Bark keeps updating, and then there's an issue in how the iPad and the Bark software communicates, and it created a nightmare of notices. I was getting 400 notices a day because the iPad kept kicking Bark off the parental controls and then putting it back on and then kicking it out, and it was crazy. Anyhow, there you go, pornography. Flying blind. Screen time pornography. The last one I will zip through because we are starting to get late. Apps. Some apps to watch out for. The first one is HIP. You know the old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. This looks like it would be an awesome little music app, doesn't it? HIP actually stands for Hide It Pro. Hide It Pro is disguised as a music manager, but really it's meant for hiding anything from photos, videos, text messages, other apps. You can drag it all in and password protect it so that nobody can get in it. These are called Vault apps, in case you're wondering. There's a ton of them out there. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of Vault apps out there. I am putting the icon up here for you to see for these apps in particular because these are some of the most popular as of now, probably till this message gets out. Luckily, most of them are at camp. So, HIP, the next one is called Calculator Plus. Looks awesome, doesn't it? Sweet, my kid needs a calculator. They're going to use their phone for schoolwork. No. Same concept, actually, as HIP. It acts as a password. There's an actual password input. It hides photos, contacts, browser history, and passwords. It is called Secret Calculator is actually the name of it, but this is what it looks like on the phone. And obviously, hiding something. The next one, I have preached message after message on this. Snapchat. Listen, there is no parental control. There is no way for you to, there is no privacy. There is no location control. Your kid puts something out there on Snapchat and people can track them down. Let's just put it that way. Nice and simple. Which also allows them to track other people down as well. It goes both ways. For those of you who might not have heard a message I've preached or me going off on Snapchat in the past, listen, this app was specifically created so people could cheat on their spouses. That is the whole purpose behind this app. And we just hand it to our kids. Here you go. How do you expect them to use it? Listen, I get it. They want all the cool filters and stuff. Snapchat is not necessary. You can find other things to do where you don't need it. And that was my Snapchat rant. I actually had Snapchat on my phone for a while just to try it. And after about 30 seconds, I'm like, I can't even look at what's on here. If you've ever downloaded it as a parent, and listen, your child shouldn't have something on their phone or iPad or access to that you've not checked out first, but that's a whole other story. If you've downloaded Snapchat, you just pick it up and start scrolling, you're going to see obscene things in the first 10 seconds you're on it. And we're just handing that to our kids. Oh, but they've got cute little filters. So what? You're just going to hand them virtual pornography. And yeah, sorry. I'll walk away. Line. Line is another all-in-one mobile hub for chatting, sharing photos, videos, texting, phone calls. This is a way for them to connect with other people. It is very similar to Snapchat. It just doesn't disappear as fast as Snapchat does. Whisper is an online community app. This very similar to Snapchat, where you can set time frames and things like that. You're supposed to be able to chat anonymously. This is what attracts teenagers to it. It says it's an anonymous way to ask questions and talk to people. However, if you set every control setting within the app, people still know your city, your state, and they can geolocate you. That's with every filter set within the app. It is not a safe app, actually. So if they start talking to a stranger, they have no clue who they're talking to, they're putting things out there, somebody's responding, they can track your child down. It also lets them see people who are nearby. Even with all those filters, you can see people who are nearby. Why even bother putting the filters in? Because they're not doing anything. Keek, Kick, depends on your generation. Keek or Kick. Messaging app. It allows the exchange of videos, sketches, GIFs, photos, whatever. The big thing here is probably privacy. They can send and receive information from anyone. Anyone in the world can send them something through this app. So they could be sitting there purely innocent and somebody can send them a nude photo. Like, there's zero control in this app. Very easy for predators to use with minors. The last one I have up here is called Vora. Vora is actually, it's a dieting app. Great for adults, possibly. But the app has a social media feature that connects users with other fasters. They're trying to fast. So while the intent of the app may be for health benefits, it can be dangerous. 2 reasons. One, if your kid's prone to eating disorders, obviously, you're just handing them the keys. Number 2, there's no location or privacy protection within the app, so it's open. Again, I have all of this I can print and give you a copy of, because we're not going to get to all this. These are all websites where your child can punch this into a browser and automatically be linked with people all over the world to video chat with. No restrictions, no nothing. Boom, here you are, out in the world for the world to see, and the world out there for you to see. We spend how many years of a child's life as they're growing up do we teach them not to talk to strangers? And then they turn 8 and we hand them the keys. We say, here, go talk to whoever you want. There's no such thing as a stranger anymore. We're flying blind. We need to put protection in place. Watch these places like these. We're flying blind. There's so much more out there. I've got 30 hours or more into compiling just this. And it doesn't even scratch the surface. So here's some tips. I'm going to give you 8 tips. Pastor said I could have till 8 o'clock because this was such a deep message. And I'm going to take right up until 8 o'clock. I'm going to give you 8 tips. I have these, I think, with the printouts as well. Number 1, lead by example. Be the role model. Be what you want them to be. If you want them to unplug and spend family time, guess what you need to do? Unplug and spend family time. If you want them to be accountable to somebody with their devices, guess what you should do? Be accountable to somebody with your device. Number 2, lead by example. Number 2, set ground rules up front. Be proactive, not reactive. Set your expectations and consequences so you don't have to make a spur-of-the-moment decision. Chances are, you've seen the percentages, you've seen those statistics. Chances are at some point or another, you are going to catch your child on a website they probably shouldn't be on. Are you going to fly off the handle because you've not already set in your mind, this is how we need to handle that? Set the ground rules up front. If I catch you getting onto these types of sites, getting these types of apps, doing this, here is what the consequence is going to be. And then follow through with it when it happens. But set the ground rules up front. Listen, too many of us as parents don't set ground rules up front and then we fly off the handle when something happens. Me included. I'm preaching to myself here. You're better off to have it ready so that when it happens, you can go back and go, okay, we talked about this and here's what it is. You broke this rule. You committed that crime. Now this is their punishment. Number 3, so lead by example, set ground rules up front. Number 3, determine is their screen time a privilege or a reward? What do I mean by that? This is going to be probably your parenting style of preference, but a privilege is something that can be taken away as punishment. A reward is something that's given for a job well done. So do you want the privilege of your child having screen time, and then when they mess up and do something wrong, you take that privilege away? We've done that. Or is it when you have your chores done, when you have done your devotions, by the way, devotions should be the standard no matter what. That should happen before ever getting on a screen. But that's a whole other sermon, a whole other armor of God sermon, if we could get there. Not tonight, though. Is the reward given for proper behavior? They finished their chores. They read a book for an hour, so we'll give them an hour of screen time. Whatever it is it a reward? So you set that ahead of time because in your mind then you know this is the purpose for them having screen time. So then when you give it to them as a reward, don't then take it away as punishment. Take something else away as punishment. They've earned screen time by doing this, so do something else for punishment. I know that sounds awful, doesn't it? But listen, they're going to try and keep you at your word. And if you go back and forth and do things different every single time because you've not set those ground rules up front, the inconsistency is what kills our children. Number 4, find offline activities. Find a hobby, a sport, something that's not on the screen that they enjoy. By the way, this would be a great opportunity for you to find something that you enjoy doing with them. Good way to spend time together. Like mowing the lawn, having the kids sit in your lap when you're mowing the lawn. Do something that's not in front of a screen. Find offline activities. Hobbies are great. I have found a new hobby with Ella this year. She enjoys shooting the bow and arrow. And so I got her a little bow and arrow. We go out, she shoots at a little target, and then I'll pull mine out and shoot at a big target, and we have a great time. It's a lot of fun, and it's something we do together. And actually, some of the other kids are starting to get more involved with doing it as well. It's something we can do together that's not in front of a screen. Yes, we all love movies, and we work hard, and we want our downtime, but find something that's not in front of a screen. Which ties in with number 5, designate offline time for face-to-face interaction. Maybe it's dinner time. This is not a time for phones. When we sit down at dinner, my phone comes out when pastor calls, when my mom calls, or if my wife's away when she calls. That's it. That's the only reason my phone should be out or on during dinner time. Sometimes I set it on the table, but it's the only time it's on during dinner time. Find times that you designate for face-to-face interaction for their sake as much as for yours. They need the face-to-face interaction even though they don't realize they need it at that age. Number 6, use social media as a tool, not a pastime. An idle mind is the devil's playground. You get on social media and start flicking for no purpose whatsoever, 3 hours pass. You get onto YouTube and start watching a video, and then the next one starts playing, and the next one, you're on there for 4 hours, and you're like, holy cow, where'd the day go? Have a purpose for it. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I need to be entertained, so I set my screen time. I set my screen time so I can't be on YouTube for more than half an hour, because otherwise I will sit there all day scrolling through YouTube. Find a purpose for it. If you need the debrief and you need that entertainment, great, do it, but set the parameters ahead of time. Here is the longest I am going to be doing this. Designate it. Use it as a tool, not a pastime. There should be a purpose. Be wise, not a time waster. Number 7, avoid screens in bedrooms. I already kind of covered this. One of the leading causes of sleep disorders are screens before bed. That goes for any screen, televisions, cell phones, tablets, any type of electronic screen. Have some downtime without screens before bed. Read, meditate, pray. It's a great quiet time with God. Teach them. By the way, it's good for us as adults too. Spend a half hour in prayer before you go to sleep, and then teach them to spend a half hour in prayer before they go to sleep. Use it as a teaching tool. And then lastly, number 8, talk to them about their online activities. Listen, everything that I have given you tonight is just a tool. It's a piece of armor, but it will never replace true discipleship. Spending time with them, talking about these things, and helping them set up their own safeguards. Teach them that the safeguards you're giving them are to help them to learn to set up their own safeguards, because quite honestly, them putting on the armor of God themselves will be a whole lot more effective than you putting it on for them. And that goes for every area of the Christian life. Put on the whole armor of God. When it comes to the internet, there needs to be an acknowledgement. There's an issue, and you need help. Acknowledge that there's an issue and that you need help. There needs to be an action. Implement the safeguards for you and your family. And then there needs to be accountability. Somebody to keep your kids accountable, and probably somebody to keep you accountable too. But the absolute single most important piece of armor that I could possibly give you tonight is ask. When you have questions, when you have problems, get help, do the research, find somebody. Like I said, I printed off, I think 10 copies of the main slides. Ask, get help. None of us, I don't think any of us sitting here would say that the future of our child isn't worth the time to find the right safeguards. I don't think any of us would be brash enough to say that a few dollars a month is too much to spend for our child's safety and protection. Take the time to protect them and teach them. And when you run into problems, and you will, ask. Put on the whole armor. Stop flying blind. Pastor?
I realize that was for the kids and us to think about our children, but man, I'm convicted, man. I've got to do a better job in this area. We've got screen time for our kids, and we set those things up, and I'm thinking, Matt Schwender doesn't have screen time. maybe I could get more done in life if I had more. Listen, I'm just being honest with you that this is for our kids' sake, but the Bible tells us to put on the armor too. We're supposed to have the helmet of salvation. We're supposed to have the breastplate of righteousness. We're supposed to have our loins girded about with truth. So, man, just thinking the screen time and the application stuff and the apps and man, I was looking at my phone the other day and I'm like, how did I get all these apps? Like sometimes my daughters will download something on my phone that I won't let them have on their phone so I can see what's going on with it. And I'm thinking, I got like 900 apps on my phone now. Like this is crazy. And so we just got to be on the front lines. Pastor Lear, thank you for the research on that. Thank you for doing the job of just being on the front lines of trying to help us as parents. When he told me one day, he's like, we got to watch out for this new thing called Snapchat. And I was like, what's Snapchat? And he showed me. And when he told me that the second you send a picture, 2 seconds after you send it, the thing disappears. I said, never in a million years will I have it, and never in a million years will my kids have that. If you think kids doing that, sending messages and sending photos and sending videos, and it disappearing so that you cannot see it, and you think that's a good idea because of the filters, you bumped your head too hard. You gotta get to the doctors or something, get your head repaired, because that is dangerous. That's like handing your, what's that? And when you run a Christian school, this is how we find out about a lot of this stuff. Not Christians. Oh, yeah. They're all right in the middle. I was at physical therapy the other day, and my physical therapist said, I met this guy on, I don't even know what she said, Bumble or something? Bumble? Rumble? Tumble? I don't know. Something tumbled or rumbled or bumbled or something. And I was like, what's that? And she said, oh, you can find people, you can filter like what kind of people you want, and then it'll tell you everybody within 50 miles that meet those filters. I'm like, oh, that's great. That's wonderful. But we just got to be on the front lines of it. And I thank you, Pastor Lear, for taking the time and helping us. We've had different things on our phones, and we've got parental controls and all those things, so 100% need it. It needs to be something that we as adults take to heart and make sure we're guarding ourselves. Let's stand together for a word of prayer. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Mr. and Mrs. Hoffer have gone to get the ice cream sandwiches out, and so that'll be something you can grab on the way out in the foyer there. And I would suggest you go grab that first because those are going to melt quick in this weather. And so if you want one, if you'll go down and grab that real quick, I'm sure they would be appreciative of not having a bunch of melted ice cream sandwiches. Yes, ma'am. Yes, if there is a couple strong, able-bodied men, and some of us have back issues and those kinds of things, and unfortunately, there's a Corian 64 by 64 stand-up shower pan. It weighs about 400 pounds, 400 or 500 pounds. It's leaning up against my deck in the backyard, and we need that to go inside my house. And we are thankful we got a $3,000 shower for $600. And my wife had to drive 3 hours with Miss Joy, 3 hours there, 3 hours back, but that's what you do for a good deal. And so we're thankful, but I do need to get that inside the house and get that set tonight so that they can level it, and we got to put some mortar down. We got to let it set for a few hours till tomorrow. And so if you can help us get that in the house, any strong men can help us with that, or ladies, I have no discrimination whatsoever. If you would like to help us, I've seen some of you whack your children upside the head. You are able-bodied enough to handle this. And most of the women, I always tell people, women most of the time aren't stronger than us, but they are definitely tougher than us. And so if you are a tough woman and you would like to help us, you can go help us also. So thank you so much for being here and for your help with all of these things. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this sermon. Lord, in just tying it into our summer program. What a great illustration of flying blind, of those old planes where they had to just kind of make it up along the way, and their lives were in peril at all times. Lord, we have come so far with technology. And Lord, that is a great thing to get the gospel around the world, to see so many wonderful things happen. But Lord, we found that some of it is just poison. And some of it is just absolute disgusting and perverted and things that we need to be aware of and to be awake to. And so, Lord, I thank you for this message that's woken me up in some areas. And I pray that every parent in here would understand that this is not meant to hurt. This is not us trying to control them. But Lord, this is simply a piece of the armor that we have got to help our children guard their hearts, for out of it are the issues of life. Lord, so many people are tainted and toxic, and by the time they get to 20 years old, because of these years as teenagers, not being watched, not watching themselves, not making good decisions, let us step up as parents. Please, Lord, help us to give us the strength not to be intimidated. Our children will kick back. Our children will complain. They will cry. They will come up with every reason why not. But Lord, may we just determine when you tell us to do something, may we act. And if we don't know what we're doing, help us to please be humble enough to ask. Thank you for somebody like Pastor Lear who cares enough about our church and our families and our children, the next generation, to raise these alarms. And Lord, I pray that you'll bless him for it and his family for it. In your precious name, Lord.